Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Expression by Neda. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm going to be doing a painting tutorial and I will be showing you guys step by step how to create this landscape with a poppy field and golden sky. So the first thing we're going to do is the background of the poppies, which is dark, and I'm making it a little darker on the top with some black, and then it kind of fades into a darker brown. So that will be the background of the red poppies that we will add later. And now I'm going to begin with the mountains. So I have 3 layers of mountains. The first one you see here is gold, and I'm adding this with a palette knife. So I am using all acrylic paint and palette knives for this tutorial. So that first layer I'm doing of mountains is in pure gold, and for this tutorial I used Master's Touch acrylic paint, but you can use any acrylic paint. There's lots of different brands that have good colors of gold, especially like Amsterdam or Golden, or you can try whatever you can find locally. So I am doing the second layer now, which is a gold mixed with either brown or black to make a medium shade, and then the mountains in the forefront are going to be black. So usually things that are further away are a bit lighter, like in the case of mountains, and the ones that are closer are a bit darker. So I am going to just play with the texture a little bit with the knife by running it through the paint and just defining each mountain in each layer so that it can all be seen. Next I'm going to be using a paintbrush, and I'm doing that because this is a really small painting. It's 4 by 4 inches, so sometimes the knives are just not small enough to really get in there and do what I need to do. So I might go in with a paintbrush here and there, but for the most part I do use palette knives, and if it's a larger piece you would probably be good with just palette knives. So now I'm adding the sun, and I've put a little blob of gold paint, and then I'm playing around with it using my paintbrush as well as a toothpick, which you'll see in a moment, just to create extra texture and a kind of flow and shape that I like. So I'm just playing around with that, and I'm using a toothpick again because this painting is so small and I needed something really pointy and small to get in there. So that's why I just used whatever I kind of had laying around, and I find that really fun in the creative process to use things you have laying around that are not necessarily typically used for art to create art. So now I'm starting with the poppies on the bottom half of the painting, and I'm starting with a very, very small dot. So I'm using the corner of this palette knife because it happens to have a pointy corner, and I'm just trying to do really small dots, and they are very dark red in the beginning, and as I move forward closer to the foreground I will make them brighter red. So I'm just going to be working downward, and as I do that the poppies will get brighter and bigger. So now I'm just doing a little bit bigger dots, and you'll see as I move closer and closer, just pick up a little bit more paint and get those circles slightly bigger. So as you're adding the poppies, you want to keep a little bit of the background peeking through. so that it looks like a field of flowers and it's not just a red blob. So I'm putting them here and there and quite a lot, but I'm just keeping in mind to let the background, that dark background that we created, show a little bit, and that will help to create a little bit more of a realistic feel. So now I'm going in with a paintbrush and gold paint, and I am adding some stars in the background. So in a moment you'll see that I do cover that with a thin layer of gold paint because I didn't really like how it looked on its own, but you can leave it like that as a sky of stars, or cover it and still have the texture peeking through. But those were just small dots made with the paintbrush. And now I'm using a toothpick again to start adding some greenery among the poppies. So very similar to the technique with the red, I am going to do very dark green and very tiny dots in the beginning. And as I move forward and down, I will make the green brighter and a little bit bigger. And I'm putting those in between the poppies. I'm not trying to put it on the flowers. I am putting it in between, and not as many as the flowers, just here and there in between to add a little bit more going on to the painting. And green and red are really complementary, so I thought it looked nice. So as you can see, the green is getting brighter, and this gives a nice sense of light. It feels like the front is brighter and has more light, which is the feel I was going for. So now I'll be painting that thin layer of gold on the sky as I mentioned previously. So I do want the wood still to show and peek through, so I'm not putting a lot of paint. But I also want the stars actually still to show. So as you can see, when I'm putting on top, the stars still show and have that texture, but it's just not as abrupt, and you can add some gold to the sky like as I'm doing in the video. So I'm making a thin layer here, and then I'll be adding a little bit of extra texture onto the mountains as well as in the sky in a moment. So I just wanted to create kind of abstract clouds or just a little bit of movement in the sky. So I'm going to be adding some more paint on the sky and just thick kind of single strokes. You don't want it everywhere, but just here and there to give a little bit more dimension to the sky. Going back in with the paint with my paintbrush in the sun. The paint has started to dry a little bit and is a little bit more stiff, which helps me play around with it. So I just added a little bit more texture onto the sun. And now I'll be going back in on the mountains and just adding some gold, because the mountains, the first set of mountains and the sky are the same color. So I just want to make sure the mountains don't get lost and that they're still visible and pop out. So I'm just adding a little bit of extra texture and going back in on that. Alright guys, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like and share my channel. And if you recreate any of my paintings, #expression by Neda, and check out my Instagram, expression by Neda. Thank you guys.